Welcome everybody to another live edition of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. Today's episode, why is it so hard to live my life with ADHD? Well, as I'm sure we're all aware, those who have ADHD, of course, find it very difficult on a daily basis because we have so many symptoms and, for many of us, unexplained issues and problems that occur that we are having a difficult time explaining to people that we know. And on top of it, those who do know us already have a difficult time. And we're trying our best to accommodate and be as best that we can. And I know that for many of us, it's extremely difficult. And it's not always easy for us to explain why we're having problems. And it's extremely difficult on the worst of times when we're just not there, like we just can't help ourselves. But we try, and a lot of times we fail, which is unfortunate because we're really trying hard to just be our best. And for many of us, we just can't, right? Like, how are we supposed to be our best when we have so many little issues that keep coming up and we don't have any ability to explain it? All we're trying to do is live our lives the best that we can. And at the same time, try to, for some of us, it's try to make the best out of who we are and what we have. Now, it's not always easy, of course. And I'm here to explain and talk about my own complicated life. It may not look like it on my show. Like if you listen to my podcast week after week, it may look like that I am under control and I know a lot of the answers and I sound very educated and wise or whatever, or helpful to you. But the truth is that it's not that easy. Behind the camera, I am someone who's struggling a lot of the times. My girlfriend and I, of course, as you know, live together. And we have been together now in the same house since July of 2021. So it's about 15 months now. And we've been dating since the beginning of 2019. So we've been together for quite a long time. And the thing that always happens with me is the moment something goes wrong, let's say she gets upset at me because I've made a mistake or I've been so focused, like hyper-focused on what I'm doing on the task, that she gets upset and I instantaneously get dysregulated emotionally, and I'm having a very difficult time knowing what's going on. And the thing is because I've also got trauma from my childhood, that my child parts are coming online right away. And so I'm overwhelmed and I'm emotionally dysregulated and I'm getting triggered. I'm becoming blended with my parts and I'm just useless. Like I can't think straight. I can't say more than a few words. I have an extremely difficult time saying a sentence, let alone a word, right? And she's expecting me to say things to her and respond with adult answers and have logical explanations and not get upset at her, not get triggered and excited and angry. And I have a difficult time even knowing that this is happening in the moment. And so her level of frustration and how much she gets upset increases because I'm pretty much not there. I can't do anything about it. And as well, I can't find the ability in the moment that I am emotionally dysregulated and extremely overwhelmed and likely triggered, I have a very hard time pulling myself away from the conversation. I'm realizing my state, like, well, I'd say 70%. I'm noticing that I'm emotionally dysregulated and that I'm overwhelmed. But the strength and the ability for me to actually notice it and to say to her, I can't continue this conversation. I'm just not capable right now of doing that. It's extremely difficult, and it's really hard for me to do. Imagine with yourself, and I'm sure you can, how hard it is to step back, right? Like, to just be regulated, to notice everything that's going on around you, and to feel like calm and feel capable of being yourself. It's super hard. And with all the examples and all the different people that I've talked to who have ADHD, and a lot of them are either realizing or they know already that they have some kind of trauma or they have another disability that is along with this, like with ADHD, they also have a very difficult time realizing and being aware of what's happening. When I get blended and I'm overwhelmed and I'm having a large amount of stress in that moment as it's happening, my self-awareness goes down. I'm really not able to be self-aware because my brain, it's like it just freezes up. It just goes, oh no, what am I going to do? Like I get stuck, right? You just kind of, you're like, now what? I'm trying my hardest to listen. I'm trying my best to comprehend what's being said. I'm trying my best to be able to communicate back so that she understands what's going on and what I'm saying and what I'm thinking. And so often I have a hard time saying what I'm thinking in the moment. I can't. Like, it's extremely difficult to do that. And I realize after, unfortunately, that this is what's going on. But of course, I can't notice in the moment that I am feeling that way. I don't really know at the time what I can do. Like, it's hard. And figuring it out is one of the most difficult things I've ever had to deal with in my life, because it seems to be a repetitive issue. Every single time that I get in this state, I can't seem to find the way to deal with it and to calm down and to regulate myself. And then on top of it, learn how to step away, learn how to go and say, okay, this is not right. I'm not feeling good. I'm not doing well. I'm not myself. This isn't the adult, and I need to step back. I need to go and take care of it. I need to process, or I need to regulate my emotions, and then I can come back and have a conversation. It's extremely difficult to do that when you're feeling the way I feel. And I know that you guys have the same problem. It's extremely difficult to do all that in the moment when your ADHD and all the symptoms that you experience are occurring right then and there. How the hell can you do what is necessary in that moment when you're feeling so overwhelmed? And it's like, some of you out there I know have a lot of difficult times. You're taking medication or you're not taking medication, or you've been waiting for a very long time to go to see a psychiatrist to get a diagnosis for your ADHD. And in the meantime, you're doing your best either by yourself, or maybe you have a partner or a friend or a family member that knows about it and is helping you to the best of their abilities to get, make it easier for you to be yourself, to do your job, or to be in your relationship and deal with your ADHD like symptoms. For many of us, we get overwhelmed that second that anything happens. We're trying our best to be organized, to think clearly, to think properly, right? We have a lot of communication issues where we're trying to tell somebody in the moment what we're doing or where we're trying to go, or to get our needs noticed so that people will be able to go, oh yeah, sure, okay, here, let me help you out, or here, or so they can do what they are needing to do for us. If we're not able to communicate clearly to them and say, this is what we need, this is what's going on, this is the explanation, this is why I'm struggling, or here's the situation. I was coming downstairs and I was going to clean the carpet, and the carpet was really messy, so I took it outside, right? And I needed to clean the floors. And I know you told me that there's, like a stain or a mess on there, and you need to clean that up before you sweep the floor. And it's like, I'm listening, and I'm having a very difficult time for whatever reason, and I can't explain it. It's not like I can just stand there and go, yeah, well, the reason that I didn't understand that I started doing the incorrect step first was because my brain decided to go to sleep, or I lost focus halfway through what you were telling me, and all of a sudden I started doing the work. For a lot of us, it's not that easy to do that, to just stand there calmly, focused, having our brains being able to comprehend what we're going to say and make it come out in a sensible, logical way. That's very difficult for us to do that. Imagine, right? Imagine how hard it is for us in the moment, just right then and there, to say to the people that we're talking to, hey, yeah, this is what happened, and this is how I dealt with it, and this is why. If you think about it, if we were capable of saying this and all that info in that moment, and be clear and concise and sound intelligent and logical, then we wouldn't really have ADHD. What would be the problem, right? That's the thing. And that's what a lot of neurotypicals just don't really get, is we're having a hard time in our own lives, inside this brain of ours, to understand what is going on. And when we're feeling that pressure in the moment to say, like, to have to speak or have to do something right now, like, we have expectations, right? Like, someone talking to you, and they're asking basically for you to give them an answer or to give a response so that they can make a decision, or that they can feel verified or validated, right? And we're sitting here, or we're standing and we're facing them, and you can feel the pressure and you can feel the anxiety start to build, and it's really strong, really quick. And our minds are racing, and we've got tons of thoughts going on, many different thoughts. Some are not even related at all to what's going on. And we're trying to respond, and we're trying to not just respond to that person, but we're trying to do it in a logical way. We're trying to make sense. We want it so bad to come out in a way that is, that's properly established. Because, a lot of you probably have experienced this many, many times. You say to them what is on your mind, or you're trying to explain what happened, or what you're doing, or why this happened, and it doesn't come out properly, and then they end up just getting more frustrated. Like, they're going, what? And I'm sure you can even feel, or you can see the tension building, right? Like, you can tell that they're looking at you, and they're confused, or they're getting frustrated, and you can see the look on their face of that frustration, and there's a buildup of anger or annoyance, and you just know, that it's coming. And of course, so that means that you are starting to feel it. You're starting to get more anxious. You're starting to be overwhelmed, and your brain now is starting to, well, let's just, for the sake of the conversation, your brain's starting to smoke, right? It's overworked. It's overheated. You don't have the ability to level out and just ground and breathe and allow yourself a few moments to just regroup. Because one, you think and you feel or you believe that that person that you're talking to wants your answer now. They want to understand. They don't want to waste 5 minutes standing there waiting for you to give them an explanation that makes sense, and that is the one that they want to be told, because a lot of times you're going to give them an explanation that's not going to make sense. They're going to sit there and they're going to go, right? Like, imagine, and I'm sure it has, that you're sitting there or you're standing there and you're trying your utmost best to say what you're trying to tell them, right? And you can't. You're confused. You're stuck. You're frozen. You know, you've become almost like non-comprehensible or non-verbal, and you don't know what to do, and your heart's racing, and you're getting excited, but not in a good way. Like you're overexcited and you're nervous, and everything is just like, you almost feel, you could probably feel like the room is circling and it's closing in on you, and you want to escape. But if you have any history and you with that person that you're dealing with, and you know that if you leave, there's a good chance that they might get more upset, or they're going to get really confused or annoyed, or they're going to wonder, is this guy being an asshole? Or is she being a jerk? Is she just doesn't want to talk? What is going on? And of course, they're going to start to assume things and make up or think ideas in their heads about what you're doing. And, you know, they're going to make assumptions. And of course, most of those assumptions are going to be automatically wrong. So yeah, you're wondering to yourself, hey, what the hell? Like, what's wrong with this person? I asked them a simple question, and I didn't get the right answer. I got a confusing answer, and then all of a sudden they walked away, and they're like, what? And more often than not, that person's just gonna go, whatever. I don't care. What an idiot. What a loser. That guy's dumb. Or he's weird. So there's a good chance that you could lose that friend, because they're going to think you're an odd person, and they're just going to not want to have anything to do with you. And unfortunately, I'm sure for a lot of us, that's a very common scenario where you've lost a friend, or maybe even a relationship, because they just don't get what's going on, and they don't have time, or they don't care enough to sit there with you and let you explain what's happening, or they don't have enough compassion or empathy towards you to just try. And that right there causes you, especially if it's multiple times over a short period of time in your life, that causes you to be less willing to, commit to anything, or to tell people about your ADHD, or think that that you can trust them with the information that you're telling them. So you become more closed off, and you become less friendly and less social, and you find it easier to just be reclusive and not do anything, because you find that to be less stressful and less anxious. And if you have trauma related, which a lot of us do, and we don't even necessarily know it, or it is something that we're thinking that is a possibility, it's less traumatizing. And the odds of us getting triggered and re-experiencing that trauma is less to non-existent if we don't bother to try, because we do know that there's a tendency for people to not want to deal with us. And that even that thought, or going and wanting to do it, we often chicken out and get scared and not commit to what we're doing, because the likelihood in our minds that we've come to expect from people is we're going to show ourselves, show our true colors, and it's going to make people not like us. And they're going to not want to deal with us, and then we're going to be alone. So we would rather be alone and not try and feel no trauma, no anxious feelings, no stress, than go out and make an effort and have people say, no, I'm, it's just too much for me, right? You don't want to deal with that kind of thing. It's hard because we're trying our damnedest to fit in and to be like everybody else, which is extremely difficult for us because of the fact that we have all these ADHD symptoms, and a lot of us have the trauma and the triggers. And there are other disabilities that are also out there. Like some have bipolar disorder, some have dyslexia, some have schizophrenia, like, or maybe they just have extreme fears of being in social situations. Like maybe they have social anxiety disorder, right? Like there's so many things that could be there that are affecting you, and you find it so much easier to just not bother trying than making an effort and exposing yourself and then likely experiencing all that again. Like you're gonna experience all that fear and all that anxiety, and you could get triggered, right? And then you're just done for the day, and you don't want to do anything. And like a lot of us feel safe at home by ourselves, or we feel safer with people that we know and that we trust, and realize that we're gonna struggle with things at time. We're not always gonna be able to talk properly, to explain what we need to say, like make sense. We're gonna have anxious moments and stressful situations, in situations that a lot of neurotypicals don't have. And to be frank, they don't really get it, right? Like they're not going to understand a lot of the times why we're having it and what's going on. And in order for us to feel safe, we need to have people around us that are, in our minds, in our eyes, safe. And if we end up feeling more and more stressed and more triggered all the time, and it happens on a regular basis, our level of trust drops and gets shorter and shorter, and we just end up not trying ever. Or if we ever do try, it's a once in a blue moon kind of try, and we're skeptical and already feeling partially anxious about it before we've even really given it a shot. And our ability to trust that person is low. It's like they have to really work super hard to gain our trust so that they can get to the next step, which is getting us to speak, getting us to say what's on our mind, because a lot of times we won't, right? We're too scared to say what we want to say because we're afraid of them stepping away or running away and going, this guy is crazy, or there's something wrong with him. No, not for me. So that's what we're afraid of the most. So I'm gonna move on from that now. I work in a situation, like my work is most of the time is by myself. I do work with a company that has quite a few technical support type people, and we all support the same company, and we often go on site and help out our clients, and we interact with them, and we have to have like a report, and we kind of build a relationship, and we create this expectation, and we need to show them that we're intelligent, that we know what we're doing, that we're responsible, that we're social, that we're going to be able to have a conversation with them and not look or act awkward, or, so they go, gee, What a strange person. I don't get that. Why is he doing this? He doesn't sound like he knows how to talk to anybody. So it is a thing that we need to be good at. Now, I've never really been the type of person who works the best with other people, like in a group setting. I have a tendency to do my best work while it's just me. So I'm on my own. And starting from home on a daily basis really does make this so much better for me, because I don't have to, I hate to say this, it sounds like I don't like what I do. I know what I'm going to say is going to make it sound like this, but I like doing it myself, and me just being the only one who does the work, because I have a hard time working with other people, because I have a hard time understanding what they're asking for. They're not like, I'm not as quick as they are when it comes to understanding what they're asking, and comprehension of things sometimes don't always work. And so there's a fear of sounding and looking dumb in front of them, and also looking like difficult or stubborn. So it's easier for me to just be on my own. And I love working with my clients, because it's an opportunity every single time I see somebody and I do my work for them. It's an opportunity to just try, like, practice being social, practice listening to what they're saying, like giving an explanation, and then me responding and giving them an answer, and the two, work together, and it all makes sense. And they're satisfied with what I'm telling them and the answer that I'm giving them, and I feel good because I was able to interpret what they're saying and turn it in my mind into a resolution based on my past experience and knowledge and what I'm doing. I like that, but having to work with other people because of the level of anxiety and the stress that I feel, because I'm afraid of the things that I'm going to say and the stuff that I'm going to do, or my responses are going to look to them as in a negative way. Like I'm going to give them a negative feeling on who I am and what I do. So the more that I can just be by myself, the better off that I feel that I'm going to be, and the better I'm going to do. I am afraid of saying something that's not going to be right, or that's going to sound nonsensical, and then they're going to kind of look at me and go, I don't get him. What is wrong with him? Right? Like just like anybody else, like a person out on a date or with a group of people, and they're scared of saying something or doing something in front of them that's going to result in them thinking that they're strange, or that they're just weird. Nobody wants to feel like that, because that brings shame and that brings doubt, and it affects our self-confidence, and the likelihood of us going and doing that same activity in the future just is either very small or not going to happen, period. So it's extremely complicated. And like try being someone who is constantly scared of interacting with people because they're afraid of what they're going to say, right? They're afraid that they're going to interpret something in the wrong way, or they're going to think of them as stupid or really odd or crazy or dumb, or they're right out just say, what's wrong with that person? Why do they act this way? So you're already making a negative impression on them, and you barely had an opportunity to do anything, really. So It's quite a bit to say, I've really said a lot, and it's only been just over 30 minutes. Whew. Um, when we're every day that we experience can be a challenge, and it's a challenge on many different levels. The reason that it's so hard is because we're so self-aware of our challenges. We realize when we reflect on things and on our lives, or our lives, excuse me, that we're different. And we believe that people aren't going to understand us. They're going to feel, or we're going to feel scared and extreme anxiety because we know that we're different than others. Like, I don't know how a neurotypical person lives, right? Like, I don't know how they think. I don't know how they make decisions. From what I've been told, neurotypicals it's like they just know. They're like a well-programmed computer who doesn't need to be restarted on a regular basis and is self-maintaining, right? Like an ADHD person is kind of like a computer that always has errors and often has to be rebooted in order to be able to run efficiently and to make sense. And if they don't, it just gets worse. We spend a lot of energy trying to do things every day that neurotypicals perceive as simple procedures, tasks that are, everyday, like automated kind of memory-like tasks. And for many of us, it's a struggle just to get through the first one. And we already know that there are other tasks ahead of us that later on. And we either struggle to finish the first one and it takes a lot out of us and we end up exhausted by the end, or we get distracted and we end up moving to the second task or the third task without finishing the other two and completely forgetting about it, right? And then we don't notice that these other tasks are incomplete until either we come across it by accident or by coincidence, or somebody else points it out to us, right? And if they are dealing with this on a regular basis with you, there's a good chance that they're going to sound frustrated or angry with us because they see in their minds, they keep saying, why does this keep happening? Why do they keep starting something without finishing it and moving on to something else? It frustrates them because, one, they don't understand. They don't get it. They can't see in our minds, so they don't know what's going on. And it really baffles them and it makes them confused. So, and like a lot of humans, things that they don't understand or don't grasp will often frustrate them or upset them, and a lot to the point where they'll display that frustration outwards towards that person. And we're so sensitive to that anger, like it feels like rejection, right? Like a lot of us have that rejection syndrome, dysphoria, where we're so scared of being rejected that a lot of times it gets in the way of us trying something or even starting. And because of that extreme fear that we're going to mess up and that the person's going to laugh at us or leave us or not like us at all, or professionally we're going to get fired, or we're not going to have any friends at work. So it's so strong within us and so deep that it prevents us a lot of times from doing anything before it even starts. And that's another sequence or another part of this whole thing is we have so many negative things occur for us and with us, and we have a lot of rejection and a lot of like open display of disapproval and anger and shame thrown on us, that we quickly develop that rejection fear where we don't even want to bother trying because we already believe that we're going to fail and that we're going to piss somebody off and they're going to walk away or hate us or not want to be around us. So it's just that it's like a vicious circle, and it never ends. It feels like we're always on the negative side of that circle. If we could find a way to get past it, to have that strength and courage to push through the rejection, that fear of being rejected, life could be so much easier. But for a lot of us, it's extremely difficult. Without therapy, without work and practicing, dealing with the rejection, a lot of us don't really have an easy time with it at all. We often fail miserably every single time. It's amazing how there are so many objects that get in our life that create stress and fear, and it makes our lives extremely hard. If it was just one, like if all it was having a problem communicating, we could go to a therapy coach or someone who teaches to speak or to communicate, to help us improve our communication skills. Then it would be easy, right? You go take some classes, learn how to communicate, learn how to comprehend, blah, 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 and then we're good. But if it were only that simple, and we know that it's not, right? Like, we have attention span problems. We can't concentrate. We easily get distracted from what we are doing or the person that we're with. It can be something as simple as a sign, sound, pictures, like anything. It can easily be distracting and take us and pull us away from what we're doing. And if we happen to be having a conversation with someone in that moment, it's gonna appear to that person like we're not really paying attention, or that we really don't care, that we're just trying to humor them, or some other negative thought that's going to come from their minds. And again, there we go. They're gonna get frustrated at us, and it's just like I said, it's a vicious cycle. We go around that big circle. We try, we gain all that strength and courage, and we try, and then a symptom from ADHD comes out, and we're done. We get distracted, or we can't think because our brains have got 1,000 thoughts going around at light speed, and we can't focus on one, but we can multi-focus on a whole bunch of them. But at the meantime, we're not able to concentrate and listen to the person. And again, they're going to have a negative impact, like a negative feeling because of it. So think about being, I don't know, however old you guys are out there. Me being 44, I have gone through pretty much my entire life, almost on a daily basis, struggling with this kind of problem. Talking to somebody, and you have to work extra hard just to get it out to make sense so that they understand. and you want to avoid the strange look or the confusion, or you want to make a conversation that lasts for 2 minutes be lasting for that 2 minutes instead of becoming 10. You don't want to have stress and feel scared and anxiety every time you deal with somebody. And that's what ends up happening. You know, like you can only do it so many times before the impact on your life is so strong and so detrimental that you find yourself automatically just refusing to do so, or scaring yourself so much right then and there that it prevents you from trying something that with neurotypicals is an easy thing. You know, it's like, wow, well, whatever, no big deal. You just do it. You know, you go to the store, or you go and you meet the group and you say, hi, everybody. And then you talk with them and you get to know them. Well, for me, I don't just go and say, hey, new people, interesting. I wonder what they're like. My thoughts are automatically going to, what are they going to think about me? I'm not good enough. I'm not good looking. I'm going to sound stupid. I'm going to say something that's not going to make sense. I'm not social. I don't know how to do this. I'm afraid. I can't talk. I talk too much about myself. Like there's going to be 100 different things that are going to go around in your head that are going to reinforce that negative thought. And it's just going to make you say, no, I can't do this. You could literally be at the door of the event and you suddenly get that panic attack feeling. You know, you're just sitting there going, oh my God, I can't do this. Why am I here? I'm so scared. I'm not going to be able to talk to anybody. I'm not going to make sense. And you're going crazy and you're talking fast and you look like you're sweating and you can't move. And there are people that are looking at you, you know, they're going to look at you as they're walking by going and thinking in their heads, what's wrong with that idiot? You know, what a weirdo. And then of course there's going to be someone who wants you to move, and of course you're standing there and you're going, and you're so consumed in your thoughts and your fears that you basically don't even know that he's talking to you, and all he wants you is just to move out of the way of the door so that you're not in the way of people walking in. And then you end up just stopping, and so they go, no, I'm done, I gotta go. And you turn around, you go home. And then the next day you get a phone call or you get a text from one of your friends who was there and says, where were you? We didn't see you. And you either are brave enough to tell them what really happened, or you make up some bullshit story that suits it well so that they don't find out the truth. And they don't sit there and go, or on the other side of the phone going, what a strange person, right? Like, you would rather have them think or believe that you had a car malfunction, or that you got sick, or that, I don't know, something happened that got in the way of being able to go, than knowing that you got overwhelmed and stressed out and had a panic attack because you're so scared of being social and revealing your ADHD or your trauma, or, you know, you've got years of built up anxiety that's coming out every time you try to do something. You don't want them to know about it. It's not that you're trying to lie to them. It's you're trying to protect yourself. And to some degree, you're trying to protect your friends. You know, you don't want to lose your friends. So many people, they're so afraid to talk about this. And it can be anything, right? It can be ADHD, it could be trauma, it could be depression, it could be their dyslexia, it could be if they have schizophrenia, all the different mental illnesses and all the other things that are happening. We're so afraid of talking about it to people, to our friends, to our families, to strangers. Even we're so scared of even going to a therapist because we are afraid that they're not going to understand, and that if we do tell them, they're going to be they're going to think of us in a different way, and they're going to leave. They're not going to want to be around us. They're not going to want to be our friends anymore. Our family will think we're really weird, and you don't want them to think of you in a different way. Because think about this. You know how the big thing in the last how many years has been people coming out. Their friends and their family think for the longest time that they're straight and that they like the opposite sex. And then that friend of theirs suddenly comes out one day and says, I've been struggling with this and I've been really thinking about it, but I like men or I like women. And they have a hard time doing it because they're really afraid, and the reality of that is true. They're so scared that their friend is going to think of them in a wrong. They're never going to think the same way about them again, and they're either going to stop being their friend, or every time they see them, the only thought that's going to be in their mind is, "I didn't know he was gay." And it's going to change their opinions and their thoughts about that person. Now, there are people out there, of course, who aren't really going to care. They're going to say, hey, that's fantastic. Or, oh, I didn't know. And they're not going to change how they think or feel. It's just, well, you're the same person that I've known forever, whatever. Great. You know? There are people out there that are like that, and that's what they want. They don't want to have the people who are scared or who are going to change how they feel or are going to leave them. And to some degree, that's the same with people who suffer from mental illness or have ADHD or CPTSD, trauma, or have another mental illness that they haven't really told anybody. They're so scared of revealing it to them that because they feel that they're going to run away, or they're not going to be their friend anymore, or they're going to think very different of them now that they know that person has trauma or ADHD or has bipolar disorder. It's a big real fear because they don't want to be alone. Nobody wants to be alone. That's a given. I know a lot of people think that, and there are people out there that say, yeah, I can do this on my own. I don't need any friends. But deep down inside, they like people in their lives, even if it's maybe one or two different people. They like to have somebody in their life that they can get along with, that they're friends with, that understand them, that will care and like them no matter who they are and what they believe. That's the ultimate goal for people who want companionship, even if it's just friends. It doesn't have to be a partner like in a relationship. That's not for some people, that's not the ultimate goal. But the fear of losing that and being alone often is the thing that stops many of us from revealing to those people in our lives that we are struggling with this. I haven't exactly told everybody. I have ADHD, diagnosed as an inattentive ADHD, and I have CPTSD. And there are a lot of people in my life that I have not really told. It's not because I'm necessarily worried about losing them. It's more of a fear of that they believe it, or that they don't think I'm just making something up, or that I'm making an excuse for something. That's my fear. I know that I have this problem. I know I have ADHD. I know that it affects my ability to think and to concentrate and to communicate properly. And it also affects my ability to remember stuff. And I have a lot of problems with emotional regulation, which means that I have very poor self-awareness. I often get confused and say things that that contradict one another, and it gets people upset. And I deal with that stress on a daily basis. I'm a very strong individual. There are a lot of people out there in this world who would not be able to handle a quarter of that. It would crumble them. It would make them just, go hide and not be able to do anything, because a slightest rejection or negative thought or feeling from somebody that they know would just throw them into a complete tailspin, and they'd be done for who knows how long. I'm a stubborn person, but it takes a lot. Like I'm a very strong individual, and I don't give up easy. I hardly ever give up. I'm more likely to fight through it and to try and make up for it, or be optimistic and think that I'm going to make it, or I'm going to get through this, or I'm going to fix this. It's going to get better, rather than give in and say, yeah, I can't do this. I'm not capable. This isn't me. This isn't right. I need help. I guess I've always just grown up being an independent person, not trying to rely on anybody else, trying to do things on my own, trying to fix things by myself. I have allowed other people to help me out, like if I need help and I feel that it's important, I'm more than willing to let them help me. I'm not going to turn it away. It's just, it's very difficult for me to want to say to people, yeah, I'm struggling. I can't do this. I can't talk to you right now. It's hard, and I wish it weren't. I wish it were not that difficult. But reality in life is things are rarely easy for us. We're going to face difficult times in our life so many times that it's going to feel like it was half of our life. It's one of those things that if we don't take care of it, it's only going to get worse, but we can only do it on our own. We can't, other people can try and help us, but in order for it to work, we have to do it ourselves. We have to make the decisions. We have to make the choices. We have to do it. It's not up to other people. If we leave it up to everybody else, they're going to make the wrong choices. They're going to make incorrect decisions, and it's going to fail ultimately. We might get somewhere at first, but ultimately it's going to fail. We need to be strong, but we also need to be at a point in our lives where we can accept other people's advice, other people's criticisms. We need to be able to exist among people and work on ourselves so that in the future, we're not going to be overwhelmed when we want to be social. It's going to be a lot of work, and it's a very difficult life to work through. ADHD is extremely hard. Very few people ever truly, benefit from ADHD. There are a few out there, not many. The vast majority of people who have ADHD don't become billionaires, don't become, CEOs of major international companies and have it easy for the rest of their lives. That's not the norm for people with ADHD. We struggle. We lose a lot of friends. We don't have very many of them. And much of the choices that we do make in our lives are never easy. And a lot of times it takes a lot of time for us to get to that decision. And then we often second guess ourselves because we don't trust it. We don't realize or know that what we're trying to do works. It's unfortunate that a lot of us, if life could be simple, I'm sure we would take it in a second. I know for myself that if some wizard came up to me and said, "Hey, I'll give you a neurotypical brain and you can live a normal life," I would say, stop talking, give it. It's not that I don't accept this. Hell, I have ADHD. I suffer from trauma. But I would give a lot to be able to feel, think, make decisions, live a normal, neurotypical kind of life, and feel accepted, feel comfortable in everything that I do every day. Living with ADHD is a very hard lifestyle. We don't fit in often. And it's so overwhelming most of the time that we don't know what to do. We really don't know what to do. Like, honestly, when you think about it, what are we going to do? Like, we can take your medication, we can do all the tips, like the dieting and the exercise and the sleep and the meditation and all the other stuff that's out there to help us to minimize our symptoms or to make life easier. But the hard reality, honestly, is that our lives are not going to be simple. No matter how much work we put into it, every day, every year, we're always going to have to deal with our unique symptoms, the way we are. And we have to learn the hard way, unfortunately, how to deal with it and how to adapt so that we can try and live our lives more productively, more cooperatively. And if we have partners in our lives, find ways to make our partnerships easy and less stressful, not just for us, but for our partners. Because one thing, what we don't necessarily realize is that our partners are getting and are likely going to be extremely frustrated because they don't understand us. They can't see under our minds. They have no idea what it's like to be someone with ADHD, let alone having other things like trauma and fears and rejection syndrome, dysphoria. Like it's a very tough thing to do. And I understand, and I appreciate all the hard work that everybody out there who has ADHD has done to try and make their lives easier. We're doing great, but we all know that it's not easy, and it's gonna it's never really gonna end for us. It's gonna be a daily thing. We're gonna have to keep trying and keep pushing, and then the ultimate goal is just to have time where we feel like we belong, and then we can do things right and right for us. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening in. Those who came on and watched some of the show, thank you very much. This will be replayed, of course, and I will also have this on my podcast for the following week. If you have any questions or responses or anything you'd like to say, you can send me a message. You can talk to me on Twitter. The handle is @ADHD and CPTSD. You can email me. It's livingwithadhd and cptsd@gmail.com. If you want to support me and become a member or a fan, you can go to my Patreon page. Just look for Living with ADHD and CPTSD. There are multiple different levels that you can become members. You can also support me by donating to my cause, Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/livingwithadhd and cptsd. There we go. All right. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great day. For those listening on the podcast, there will be a CPTSD episode the following day. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye for now.